Study the Quran, which is the sacred document of Islam, and every other document, whether it's the Hadith, the Sunnah, and so on, is subordinate to the Quran. And Muslims use the Quran as a measuring rod to judge whether the sayings of Muhammad, the Hadith, and the biography of Muhammad, the Sunnah, they measure that against the Quran. And if any biography disagrees with the Quran, Muslims will throw it out the way. In fact, I don't want to go into this, it's a very complicated area, but there are thousands of hadith, but many of them Muslims correctly, they're very discerning in this, that they want to know, is this, the hadith essentially is this, the reported sayings of Muhammad. And in fact, when it comes to the hadith, there actually has to be contained in it an exact detail attached to it of who said it first and the chain of tradition of the last person who said it. They make sure that every single person in this chain was contemporaneous with each other. They lived in the same time. They lived in the same place. So that there's actually roughly, there are different schools of thought in Islam on this point. I don't want to go forever on this. So there actually is not monolithic. There's different, but there are very critical, rigorous methodology in Islam to be sure that, is this hadith reliable? Is it not reliable? If it disagrees with the Quran, out. If it's a questionable source, well, and Muslim scholars will tell you off the bat, I mean, people who know. There's God the Father, and God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. The church, rightfully, in the 4th century, they had to essentially jettison the idea that the doctrine of the Trinity can be explained logically and can be understood. And the church father described it as the greatest mystery. Judaism, there can be mysteries in the Torah, of course, but there can't be contradiction. And the teachings of the church that God came down as a man is impossible. The doctrine of the Trinity is a self-inflicted wound of the church. It is a doctrine that was developed. The Christian doctrine on the nature of God is complete idolatry. I want to just say this because I'm going to get emails, 1,000 emails from Christians who reject the Trinity, and there are such people. There are Unitarians, there are Christadelphians that utterly reject and see through this and recognize the fact that the doctrine of the Trinity is a later invention. The word Trinity itself was invented. This is a highly developed doctrine. It's complete idolatry, and I just want to share one other point. It is the most odious idolatry. Christians believe that there is a God who's the Father who created the heavens and the earth. But in addition to God, they believe that Jesus is a separate person and he's full deity. That is a shirkus. That's a partnership. In Arabic, it's a shirk. It is the most odious form of idolatry. If someone worships Jesus as God and the Father as God, that's worse than bowing down to a statue, an idol of gold and silver. Worse. I debated a fellow, I'm not going to say his name, I don't like to do that, but I debated a fellow on television, actually it was a Christian TV show, who he's an apologist, and he admitted that in fact the doctrine of the Trinity appears nowhere in the Jewish scriptures. We don't have the doctrine of the Trinity. Daniel didn't worship the Trinity. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob didn't believe in the Trinity. There's nowhere where they prayed to the Trinity. It doesn't exist. Nothing. The Christian concept of God is completely different than what it says in Tanakh. And in fact, that was the first question that I was asked by a pastor. He says, how could we in any way bridge the gulf between the belief in the Trinity and real monotheism? I said, you can't. And he was shocked. One other point, and if you're a Christian, you know I'm telling the truth. Many Christian apologists admit, and I've seen this 1,000 times, they will say that the vast majority of Christians don't even understand doctrine of the Trinity. They almost invariably say that most Christians don't understand it. They think they know the Trinity, but actually they don't.